We have just made it back from Canva conference. I'm at my little cute Airbnb. This is the grounds. It's just so beautiful here. Like, Manhattan Beach is genuinely one of my favorite places. I think it's just, oh my gosh, it's so fun. Wait, I feel like I should sit here because the sun. Okay, maybe we'll do it this way. But I went to Canva conference and we got these like bags. So I want to show you, oh, I forgot one other thing. You were able to pick bags, so I got the cute, like, in water bottles with embroidered the Canva on it. You could have gotten it embroidered, but I didn't have time to do that, so yeah. But I'm trying to get the lighting. I know it's coming that way, but the seating is awkward. Maybe I'll sit on that little stool over there. So I want to show you everything that I got. This is hard. Lighting is hard. It's not that hard. So we got this bag. Cute. And in it, hello. In it, so we got, not everything of these were free, but there was a TikTok station. I don't even know if you can hear me because the microphone that I use has been kind of out of whack. But we got these like TikTok hats. Look how cute that is. They had other colors, but they ran out of the yellow and the olive green. But I love a light blue. I think it's so cute. And then they, at this like TikTok shop, they basically had different vendors. They had different small businesses there. And what was cool is that you could actually like purchase from some of these small businesses. So I went to one. It was so cute. They were called It's a Trinket Party. And they make these cute stickers, but the point was a lot of these brands use Canva to basically help with their brand or with their production in some way, shape, or form. So that was pretty cool. But these stickers are so cute. There's that one, and then I got this one. And there's front and back. Look at how cute it is. This one's very like mermaid beach vibes. I wish I might color the person in to be like a black person. And then, what is that? They basically told you how you could use Canva and TikTok together to grow your brand or your business. And then another small business that was there, they're actually bigger now, I feel like. But this is called Bask, and it is a sunscreen. So it goes on sheer. I wonder if I could show you. I'm gonna see if I could show you here. But it goes on pretty clear. And look at how cute the packaging is. And what was nice about it, it was, I think, $23. I thought it was gonna be $40, like the price of Supergoop, but it wasn't at all. So let's get some on my hand here. So you see how it looks like white, but you just rub it in and rub it in. I don't know what their formula is because you see as I'm rubbing it, it's going away. And we're doing it in the sun, so even more you could tell. So obviously it's not a mineral one because usually the mineral ones are what make you white. But this is still really good. This is SPF 30. They also had SPF 50, I believe. But I was really shocked at the price point because it feels really good. And then we had, like, look at the cute decal Canva. So cute. Add that to my keychain. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh, wait. Also got this sticker, so cute. And then this other keychain. I love it. How cute is that? And then these bags. So yeah, that was Canva conference, what we received. But one thing that I loved about the conference itself is that we were able to be with so many different speakers. First of all, they launched Canva 2.0, which was insane. And then after they launched Canva 2.0, which is basically, or Canva AI 2.0, which is basically their second version of, look at this, it's so cute. I might go on a little walk, take y'all while I talk about Canva. But it was so very sweet because they, sorry, I get so distracted when I'm trying to film. It's so hard for me to film and talk. I don't know how people do this, but I'm going to practice and get better. But it was really cool because at Canva, where are you going, bro? This gimbal, the Osmo is insane. So first they showed like all of the different features, the new things that they've upgraded and everything, which is so fun and so cool. And then what they did after that is they actually, so we saw like John M. Chu. And John M. Chu, as you know, is the, oh, I can't figure this out. John M. Chu is the, one of the people for Wicked. Let's go walk down here. Be a nice little walk. Hold on, I just have to show you. It's like my favorite place in the world. But yeah, so John M. Chu was there and he spoke about basically his whole journey, which he admitted that he was pretty fortunate because he went to film school, something of his was discovered by Mr. Spielberg himself, but he talked about something that was really important, which is even when you have an opportunity, like recognizing that the opportunities that you have, you can't squander them. But it was very interesting to see how he utilized light and sound and all of these different things and little things within the Wicked movie and the movies that he's created to basically portray an emotion. Because what he was saying is when he's building out the theater, wait, hold on. So, like one of the differences between theater and one of the other differences between theater and a movie, when you're in theater, you're actually having to do all the characters. You have to basically draw them in. There is a lot of detail even though there's a lot of detail in theater you are further away, right? You're not going to see all the little details, all the little things, whereas in television and film, you're going to be up close. The screen could be 4 inches from somebody's face. So you have to be cognizant of all the little details and the nuances that color, light, and sound bring into the movie or the film. And so it was interesting because when he was talking about in Wicked, there's a scene where Elphaba does a very simple move, just like that, what I just did, where she just does that, right? But this move is the first time that we see Elphaba as an adult. And so, because it's the first time that we see Elphaba as an adult, this is depicting, so it's zoning in on Elphaba herself, right? But what you have is all of the people around her, because the scene is when she is at the school, right? So the scene is when she is at Shiz, yeah. The scene is when she's at Shiz, right? She's about to drop off her sister, and because she's dropping off her sister, hold on, it's so pretty, I have to show that. Because she's dropping off her sister, they have to show, okay, this is her coming of age, because we've seen her as a child, but now we have to see her as an adult. And instead of making this giant movement they basically took something that was so human that any person, especially any woman, would do, right? They took something that was so human and so simple, but then they dramatized that, right? Let's see. And so when John was talking about the scene, when John was talking about the scene, I want to walk down there, but the bikes are gonna like run me over. When John was talking about the scene, it's very interesting because instead of, and that's the thing with theater, you have to be, when you're in theater, the antiques and the mannerisms are a lot bigger, right? Because you have the stage and you have the audience, right? But when you're in the theater, or not in the theater, but when you're in a movie or a TV or a film, the antiques have to be a lot smaller, because if not, it seems a bit too over dramatic. Like, you know, the way I compare it is when you're watching like a Disney movie or something, and when you're watching like a when you're watching whatchamacallit, like a, not Disney movie, but like, you know, one of those kid shows from back, they have over dramatic, right? Because it's a child's thing, so they have to be over dramatic so that children can understand the emotion and everything, right? But with a movie or something more film, you don't need the extra dramatic, those extra dramatic mannerisms and antiques, because they come across as too much and almost can make a place, or can make a TV show or whatever a bit more cheesy than what it is, because it's not giving the more natural human emotion. And this is the same thing with modeling too, because it's interesting when you're modeling, you actually have to learn how to make it seem so natural even though you're faking it, right? So that's what makes it a little bit difficult. However, you'll notice like the ones who are really good, it doesn't look like it's over dramatic, right? Like when you're emoting something like oh, I'm sad, you're not gonna be like so obviously like, you know, like this. That doesn't portray the real emotion. You have to enter into it and really emote and feel the true, as if you were truly sad, to make it come across. I don't know, I'm ranting right now, but it was very interesting to hear John speak about that, because you don't really, it's just nice to be in a room with people who understand things and who are so enveloped in their creative process. And you could see the passion as he's discussing the movies that he's created, because he's also done Crazy Rich Asians, right? And it was interesting to me when he was talking about that, because with Crazy Rich Asians, that one was a film where I guess way back in the day when he was in film school, he had seen, there was a scene or something that they all have to show each other their films, right? Their short films. And so he's watching the short films of one of his peers at the time. And it was like a guy who was opening different doors of different women who were going to be potential suitors to date this woman, right? And so they opened like all the doors. I want to go to up here, I feel like. So they open all the doors, and each door is like a different character. Someone's like kind of strange, or someone's kind of like their personality is a little bit off or whatever. And then the last one of the doors, they open it and it was like this Asian man, and everybody just starts laughing. And John was like, I don't get it, like, why is everybody laughing? And they basically were like, it's because like he's Asian or whatever. And John was like, I don't understand why that is funny. And so it was very interesting, like seeing his thought process through all of that, because then when he made the movie Crazy Rich Asians, he was telling us that I want to portray all the facets of different types of Asians and their culture, right? And I thought that that was so interesting because in our society, we definitely like to think that like white people are the monolith or like they are the standard. And it's so interesting how we categorize different races and not realize that humanity all has so much distinction, no matter what race, no matter what ethnicity, no matter what, right? And so, and I get what he's saying because I could like, I've had my own instances where, you know, people are like, they never date the black girl, or they always try to portray the black woman as something that I have never experienced. Just taking a little stroll. Everybody here has like immaculate gardens, but yeah. So when I was thinking about that, I was like, okay, because one of my dreams is to get into film and into acting and all that stuff. But one of my dreams is to almost be like what Shonda Rhimes is doing, because I feel like she is the first writer to write not with a typecasting in mind, right? She's the first person to not realize, but she knew, because I know as a black woman she's experienced it, but like, why would I typecast, right? Because especially in Hollywood, like, yeah, the thing that I don't understand, this is turning into a long video, but the thing that I don't understand about Hollywood is like why they tend to typecast so much. Because if you've ever seen it, like when I was it was 2014 when it was the first time 2014 was the first time that I saw myself represented, but not as your stereotypical angry black woman or like the black woman who's loud or whatever. 2014 with Scandal, right? Why is it that it took so long? And so one of my dreams is to show more people like me in like fantasy. I love fantasy. I enjoy reading fantasy books. I love being exported into a whole new world that I couldn't even have dreamt of. But like with Lord of the Rings, with all of these, it's like you've noticed that it's all like one type of person that they cast. And also another thing is they only cast like as the love interest, it's usually like a white woman. Nothing wrong with that, but it's like you could have multiple love interests. And I think when we do that, when we do that, my brain thinks faster than I speak. But when we do that, we are not allowing for people to imagine more than what we're telling them, right? Because sometimes you have to see it in order to believe it. It just is true. Because when I was growing up, there were many times I had a guy say like, oh my God, he was like, I would totally date you. You have you're perfect everything, but you're not white. Literally got that, right? But I'm like, why? Do you know how like stupid that sounds? And so Hollywood, I'm like, I don't understand, because it seems like they cast the same people over and over and over. And I'm like, you have the power to have an imagination and to create new stories, but you're not using it. And people in this day and age, in 2026, they are craving something new, something different, right? Because there are billions of people. You can't tell me that there's billions of people on this earth and we still choose to tell the same old stories or the same typecast, the same people, when billions of people can't be a monolith. So why on earth will we cast as though we are a monolith? You know what I mean? I don't know if I'm making any sense. Anyway, this has been a wonderful walk. Let me show you this house again. It's so stunning. But yeah, so John M. Chu, when he's making, this is the point I'm trying to make. John, when he was making Crazy Rich Asians, he was talking about how he wanted to showcase Asian people in such a different light than what they've always seen, right? So with that movie, while it is funny, we broke out of the monolith that me as a black woman, we broke out of like what I could stereotype Asian people as if I haven't been exposed to them. Like now I know, obviously, I know that they're not a monolith, right? Because obviously I know that my people aren't a monolith. But it was nice to see the facet of different things within their culture, right? And I feel like we need one of those in a way, this is a really nice house for black people too. So I don't know, it's just interesting. So that was the first part, and then this is so cool. Like, Californians have it all, truly. And so then Issa Rae was with us, and look at how pretty. So then Issa Rae was with us, and it was interesting because Issa Rae, so there was Issa Rae and then Aurora James. Issa Rae, she created, and this is why I love her so much, because if you don't know the history behind Issa Rae, she actually grew up started producing on YouTube, and she created the Misadventures of the Awkward Black Girl. My sisters and I would watch this religiously when we were in college, late high school, college? Yeah, something along those lines. And what was fascinating to me was actually, you know what? That might have been the first time I was represented more like how I portray to be represented. Because the thing is, with the Misadventures of the Awkward Black Girl, it was exactly like who I am. Because I was like, I don't fit in with... when you're not fitting in. And I don't think that story was really being told, but Issa really captured the awkwardness and the placement that it feels. And it's so funny because even though she was creating this character, the other thing that she was doing with creating this character was portraying like exactly the emotions that you feel as that person amongst all the other characters. Because there was Issa's character, I don't remember her name at the time, and then there were other characters to reinforce the story plot, right? But the funny thing is, there was one character who was so hilarious, who was like this, he was this other black man who was he literally spoke like this. He was like, hello, can I help you? He spoke literally that quietly. And it was so funny because I actually know somebody who's just very similar to that. But it was a beautiful YouTube series because in Hollywood at the time, what was misrepresented or wasn't represented at all was the awkward black girl. Because every time that we've been portrayed, it's always been, oh, we're the loud ones, we're the angry ones, but never really the awkward ones. So when Issa made that YouTube series, what happened was it literally brought out the people who are in that niche, me and my sisters, and created a story for us that was more representative of who we are. And that's what really spoke her up. And then from there, she went on to create Insecure on HBO. So she was telling us, in her beginning stages, and this I think is going to be helpful for any creative anywhere, but she was telling us that in her creative stages that she was saying pretty much everything that she was saying was an excuse in the beginning, right? So she was saying, I'm broke, I'm this, I'm that, really smells like poop right now. She was like, I'm broke. I don't have the money. I don't have the funding. I don't have a camera. I don't have this. I don't have that. And while all of these things were true, they were still excuses, right? And so she was telling us about So Issa Rae was telling us about how you have to shift your mind into, okay, while this may be true, what do I have? And I think, you hear the lesson, you hear that over and over and over again, but you don't actually take it into consideration because you're thinking, your mindset is so focused on the lack that you kind of forget that you do actually have things. So what she was telling us is, oh, you may not have the funding. However, you have this really great location that that no one's tapped into before. You may not have actors as friends, or you may not have all of the most famous actors or whatever, but you know what you do have. Oh, the lighting is better here anyway. But what you do have is you have friends who are aspiring to be that, right? You may not have the fancy camera or the thing, but you have a friend who does have a camera. And I think we tend to forget the things that we have because we're so focused on going from now to being Spielberg, right? We are so focused on going from, oh my gosh, even like with me, I am trying to move here, right? Most beautiful place, right? In the moment, I can, wait, this house is so pretty. I have to show you. So in the moment, that is not really in my price range. However, but I met with a realtor yesterday, and she was like, yeah, since we know what the end goal is, we can at least start you and then work on appreciation, all that stuff, to get you closer to where you want to be. So even though I don't have it yet, it's thinking about, okay, what do you have though right now? What do you have right now? And I think that's we tend to definitely, especially in the United States, we tend to think that we need the next instead of going off of what we actually have in the moment right now to help us with everything that we're trying to do. And so looking at the resources and the things that you currently have and basically utilizing that, right? And that's another thing, because she was also saying that when you utilize the things that you have, it kind of builds off this compounding effort, right? Where because now you have so many, you realize how much more you have, that all of the projects start to compound on itself, start to give you more confidence, and you end up falling in love with the doing. Because I think what happens, especially as creatives, we tend to fall in love with the idea of where our success is versus where we are right now, and realizing the love is in the journey, the love is in the creation process, and the love is in the learning. And we tend to think, oh, I must have something as good as Star Wars as my first pop off. And that's just unrealistic, right? Because you get good by doing it over and over and over and over and over and over again. I have to show you this video. But when we forget that you have to keep doing it over and over and over, and you get better and you get better, and as you're doing, you find the questions that you need to understand and that you can ask that are proper for your certain situation. Because especially as you're practicing, right? As you're practicing whatever it is that you want to practice, when you're practicing and you're actually doing the thing. So, okay, I'll give an example. In December, a lot of content creators, what they do is something called Vlogmas, where every single day of December, you pretty much vlog your life. I've never took on a challenge like that before because I just never thought to do that, right? So in the month of December, when I'm doing this, what I'm realizing is many things. Number one, it is a lot of work to film yourself all day, every day, and then compile, because I was spending probably 2-3 hours a day after my full-time job, after my after working out, after whatever events or whatever of the day, and then coming home and then creating this video. But you know what made me realize? I actually fall in love with the creative process of it, right? Because with the creative process, I learned, okay, I actually love seeing a video come together, and I also realize a lot of things happen in a day, because in my 24 hours I maybe captured 3-4 minutes of video, but then trying to get that, no, more like 10 minutes of video, I feel like, and then trying to compile that down to less than a minute and a half to capture the attention. I realized, okay, I do enjoy the process of editing when I have time and I'm not on a full like time constraint. However, and I realized the questions I need to start asking myself too of, okay, how can I edit this to make this more, this is so pretty. Like, how can I edit this to make this more captivating to the audience? How can I do this? But also, you know what it did give me? The confidence. It gave me the confidence because after doing something, when you do that thing over and over and over, that's why I also, this is totally a rant. But after doing something over and over and over and over again, it builds your confidence, right? And then it adds a new skill to your plate. And when you have a new skill to your plate, then you're more in alignment with who you are and what you're doing, right? So yeah, so that was Issa Rae was talking about all of that. I've kind of lost where I was going with that. But then the next lady who was up there was Aurora James. So Aurora James, she started the 15% pledge, right? So this was, I think it was back in 2019 or maybe 2020. So she also did a lot of fashion designing as well. So she started something Bevies or something. I'm totally butchering the name, but it's like R Bevies. It's basically one thing. Okay, so the backstory with her is her mom is Ghanaian, from Ghana, is from somewhere in Africa. And so when she went back to Africa, she realized the history, which I totally advise anyone to go on a trip to Africa, especially if you are a black person. Oh, that girl, I feel like she almost ran me over. Especially if you are a black person, because especially if you are a black person, because the way that this, like when I went to Africa, it was so healing for me, because you're realizing one of many things. Number one, we actually invented a lot of things that were taken, stripped away from, all those things. So we're actually significantly more brilliant than what the world likes to portray. Two, I also learned that they distorted the map. So they purposefully, in the 1500s, they purposefully created the map to make it look small. By the way, this is Manhattan Beach here, and part of it back there was Bruce's Beach. We'll walk back that way. That beach was actually black owned. And in the 1900s, I can't remember, there was a whole thing where they got their land taken away from them, mistreated as such, you know, the same story that we are very, very familiar with, right? And so that's also part of the reason why I'm like manifesting to be here, because I was like, I belong here, you know? And so, and now it's a parking lot. And so I'm like, that's interesting. And so Aurora James basically has her mom was telling her all of these things about the history of a lot of the textiles and a lot of the shoes and the things that we make here were actually taken from African artisans way back in the day, and actually a lot of the techniques and things that were created are now, as you know, as Clark's, right? So I'm not quoting the story that she said properly. This is my favorite house, by the way, so we're going to take a little decor up here. But the thing that's interesting here is that she went there and then she learned all about the making of shoes, the making of prints, the making of a lot of these things that we kind of have taken here, right? And what she did was, I'm gonna, so you could see more of the house and not me. So what she did was took that and then created her own, she took that and she created her own pretty much brand, right? So that's what she ended up doing. But now where the 15% pledge comes in. So the 15% pledge, was created by her because what she wanted to do was, I guess she had a brand reach out to her or something and was saying, we love black people or whatever. And she was like, what? She was so confused by that. She's like, okay, well, that's interesting. I don't, like, that's great. But what are you doing about it? You know, because we could say, you know, you could say you love something all you want, but the proof is in your dollar, right? And so she basically said, okay, well, if you really love us, she didn't say it that way. I'm definitely misquoting this, but she said, okay, well, you should, damn it, I forgot my wallet and I'm now at Ocean View Cafe. Should have brought my phone. Crap. We'll go up there because I want you to see it. But basically she was like, okay, well, you should, because the United States is 15% black, you should have a part of your store or 15% of the brands within your store be represented by black owned brands. And so this is where the 15% pledge came from. And what's so fascinating is that in 2020, when all of that stuff was going down, all of those things were happening, this 15% pledge grew pretty rapidly, right? People were, and companies and things were very adamant about this, more adamant and more, this felt like this was a proper obligation for this. But now, fast forward, we're in 2026, we have a crazy motherfucker as president, and these things that are helping people who may not have opportunities that other people may have had are being pretty much attacked. So this is my favorite cafe. They have so cute in here, but I gotta go get my wallet. But yeah, I sat here, over there, and then looked at the beautiful ocean view, and that was around this time last year. I'm so bummed that I forgot my wallet, because I really wanted to buy a breakfast burrito. Anyway,